Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Nicole. I'm an astrologer, card reader, and life coach. And this is my channel dedicated to all of those things, plus spiritual topics in general. If you're interested in booking a reading or a coaching session with me, you may do so at my website, NicoleBrenny.com. I just hit my table. My favorite reading to do is the diamond reading, and I love life coaching. So if you want to do more of like talking about specific issues, looking at specific problems in your life, how to overcome them and gain some tools to move forward, you don't necessarily need to book a full-on astrology tarot card reading. You can get the life coaching, and I do actually look at your chart to kind of figure out how to best coach you, and that is the best option for more of a long-term situation where I can work with you over several weeks or several months. So I've had life coaching clients that I've worked with for years now, and it's an amazing relationship, and I love watching them flourish and grow. So speaking of growth, we had a full moon last night, which was very intense, and I always pay attention to what comes up for me during different planetary arrangements so that I can learn about astrology. So as some of you guys know, of course, I read books and I've taken classes and I have a bunch of amazing teachers that I've studied with. But my favorite way to gain knowledge and actually gain wisdom as opposed to knowledge is really by empirically studying my life and looking at the astrology and looking at my experience on whatever day, month, or year of the spiral that I'm on, and kind of seeing what I can learn about astrology from my own experience rather than someone telling me that this particular alignment is supposed to make me feel a certain way. So I always look at astrology as, okay, how am I actually experiencing it? And that's what I'm going to believe more so than just believing whoever is saying something on YouTube or in a book. So I, of course, respect my teachers and what they've experienced, but I love to create my own knowledge. I'm an Aries rising, so I love to be the first to do something. I love to kind of push my way into the unknown. And by empirically studying my life and using astrology to do so, I've learned so many fascinating things, and I've learned things that I've never found in an astrology book. I've also learned things that I've never read about the cards of truth. So if you want to go into the future of the cards of truth with me, you can take my class. You can kind of see, you know, what I've explored with the cards of truth that no one has done yet. It's incredibly fascinating. And today I'm going to share with you something that I discovered about Purva Phalguni that I have never read before or seen before. And this came from empirically studying my own life. And so a lot of the times too, just to answer another question I get asked a lot, like, what's the easiest way to get into astrology? I don't know if it's the easiest way, but I think one of the best ways is to just literally study astrology in your own right. You know, don't pick up a book. Just look at the chart get a software, look at the chart, Jupiter's in Sagittarius, and see how you're experiencing that energy. You know, learn a little bit about Jupiter, a little bit about Sagittarius, and then see how you're experiencing that energy. So that's what I did yesterday on this full moon in Virgo. I mean, I do this every single day, but yesterday it really hit me like, okay, I'm reading about some weird stuff. I'm looking into a bunch of weird stuff. What is going on? And it didn't even come together until today. So let me see who's all in the chat so I can say hi to everyone, and then I'll get started. Neil is here, Pono, and Magic Cat. So we've got some OG crew here. Nice to see everyone. And I also have like leftover mascara under my eyes. So I slept very well last night, but I look like a raccoon. And I kind of like it, so I left it. Like, I've always been interested in that, like, you know, day after the party makeup look. So I was just wearing mascara a couple days ago, and it just kind of like migrated. So before I get into this, some of you guys are watching it live. Some of you guys will be watching this later on. And I should just kind of I should have put this like better in the actual description box, but I need to make a huge disclaimer that I will be talking about sex. I'll be talking about body parts. I'll be talking about graphic, scary things in this video that some of you guys might not be ready for. I am not a dark person. I'm not a scary person, but I definitely have the capacity to handle a lot of gory, gruesome stuff. I have no idea why I'm like this. I think it's because my mom is like that. She worked at a 911 call center as a dispatcher and literally heard the scariest things possible over the phone. And I think that I just get that part of myself from her. So I think that it's just part of my natural makeup that I can hear stuff like what I'm about to tell you guys about And yeah, it disturbs me, but it doesn't like give me like a physical thing, and it doesn't bring up trauma for me. So I need to put out that disclaimer that if you guys, you know, if you guys are worried about getting triggered or something like that, maybe have a friend watch this and let you know if it's good to watch for you or not. It will be sexual, it'll be violent, but everything is within the realms of teaching and education, and I'm just doing it for that and for you guys to understand Purva Phalguni a lot better, and not to just be sensational or something like that, because I really don't care about being sensational. Okay, so I hope that that helps a little bit to kind of make sure that the right people are listening, and the people that shouldn't be listening are not here. So that's my big disclaimer. It's in the description box and all of that. And also, before I go live every single day, I posted on my Facebook page that I'll be live in 5 minutes, and I put the disclaimer there as well. So if you want to have a better notification when I'm live, you can sign up to my Facebook page, facebook.com/Nicole Brenny. Okay, so Purva Phalguni is super interesting. For those of you that don't know what a nakshatra is, the moon is traveling all the time throughout the month. It goes through different phases, and while it's traveling through different sections of the sky that are known as the mansions of the moon. So the moon has different mansions that it spends time in throughout the month. And these mansions have been well documented in Vedic astrology, and they have been well observed in Vedic astrology. And so because of these observations, we can look at different planets, including the moon, in these nakshatras in your birth chart, because the birth chart shows these different nakshatras. And we can know more about who you are and a lot about your subconscious tendencies by studying these nakshatras, because they have been so well documented, and different astrologers have aligned the nakshatras with different qualities, different career paths, and things like that. I think that they're better at looking at more like your subconscious makeup and personality traits than really like concrete things, but different astrologers will tell you otherwise. So last night we had, and those are called the nakshatras. Okay, so that's what a nakshatra is. Last night, the full moon that we experienced was in Purva Phalguni nakshatra. And this is one of the 28 mansions of the moon. And it was a pretty intense full moon. I know that I felt it as well. And I didn't know exactly what was going on yesterday, but I'm going to actually first, before I start out, I'm going to tell you guys like what Purva Phalguni is all about. So Ernst Wilhelm created this PDF that I think is available on his website, where he talks about the name of the nakshatra and basically a basis above and a basis below of the nakshatra. So it's basically kind of trying to describe some element of the nakshatra through a small amount of text. And I know this is going to be confusing for those of you that are used to like a Western astrology where everything really makes sense, but a lot of the Vedic teachings are kind of in these small sutras, which are little kind of riddles or little versions of poetry that try to describe a lot about a nakshatra or a lot about a planetary principle in as few words as possible. So I'm going to share that with you guys today. And I'm going to share with you a little bit about the other qualities of this nakshatra. So first off, Purva Phalguni is the 11th nakshatra. It's ruled by Venus. And ruled by Venus, that's kind of like it's kind of a confusing thing to understand. But basically, if your moon is in Purva Phalguni nakshatra, then the planet that's going to be in charge of your life for a certain period of time is going to be Venus. So if you guys are familiar with planetary periods or dashas, those are related to what nakshatra your moon was in when you were born. So you would start off your dasha with Venus being your dasha or your planetary period that you're in. So you can watch other videos to learn more about planetary periods. They're almost like transits, but they're just basically like the planet that's in control of your life for a certain amount of time. So it's ruled by Venus, and the text that we have related to it is the earlier reddish of Aryaman is bringing forth the wife from above and a male animal from below. Okay, so it's bringing forth a wife from above and a male animal from below. And if we look as well, we will see that I want to find the basis above and basis below, like in simple terms for you guys. And I'm sorry, I'm not more organized. So basically, in Dr. David Frawley's language, he says that it has the power of procreation, and the basis above is the wife or the female partner. The basis below is the husband or the male partner. And the result of these two energies is the creation of the fetus. So it really has this energy of procreation, and it deals with a female partner coming together with a male partner and eventually being able to make a child, okay? That is the energy that it carries. And I also found another website that goes more into Purva Phalguni, and it really talks about, I'll just read the text. It's from vedanet.com/Shaktis of the Nakshatras. You guys can look this up, and I'm just going to read the text so you guys can understand this a little bit better. Purva Phalguni in the Vedic order is ruled by Aryaman, the god of contracts and unions, though later it was shifted to Bhaga, the solar deity of happiness. It gives a power of procreation. The basis above is the wife or the female partner, and the basis below is the male or the masculine partner. Together, these bring about the creation of the fetus. Purva Phalguni brings about union and procreation on all levels, yet this follows some official agreement or marriage and is part of the creation of a new family or social order. It governs such productive alliances and also arranges the marriage festival. The need for alliances and unions is the needs for, oh wait, this is confusing. The need for alliances and unions for success is indicated. All right, so the marriage festival of the sun goddess and the moon god, or Shiva and Shakti, occurs in the Phalguni month. It shows a need to bring male, oh my gosh, you guys, I can't read it all today. It shows the need for balance between male and female energy. So hopefully you guys stuck with me with my real difficult time talking. I've been having this difficulty talking for the last 3 days, so welcome to my world. But you guys get it. It's about the male and the female marriage ritual. It's this real formal bringing together of male and female energy. And it's really looking at the woman as coming from above and the male coming from below. Okay, let me see if you guys have any questions. Because if you have questions, and my live or my recorded audience later is going to have 1,000 questions. All right. So I don't see any intense questions. All right, so we're going to keep going. Okay, let me tell you a little bit more about Purva Phalguni. It is a cruel or a violent nakshatra. It's Ugra, which means violent, and Krura, which means cruel. And nakshatras can be several things. They can be soft, they can be sharp, they can be moving, they can be light, they can be harsh, but this nakshatra is cruel and it's violent, okay? And the body part that it rules is the genitals. Okay, it rules the genitals. That's why I'm saying, you guys, this video is not for children, but it should be made for children, and you're gonna kind of see what I'm talking about in a second here. So yesterday, I wasn't thinking about nakshatras at all. In fact, I had so many clients and things to deal with yesterday that I was just like in the mode of working. And then when I wasn't working, I was doing research for this book that I'm working on. Okay, so hopefully you guys will be able to read this book eventually, and you're probably going to be super interested in it after, you know, I'm sharing with you some of my research. But all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I just started thinking about something that I had researched very intensely about 9 years ago. So 9 years ago, I just really got into this period of my life where I wanted to know about the darkness of the world. I wanted to know about the things that are hidden, the things that are mysterious, because I didn't want to be oblivious to it all. I was from the Midwest. I grew up in a nice family. Of course, I had difficulties and sadness in my life, but I never had to experience intense, crazy trauma. And I was really grateful that I didn't, but I didn't want to be ignorant and I didn't want to be blind to the injustices of the world. So I started researching about the different problems in the world. And one thing that came up was FGM, or female genital mutilation. So it's almost like a female circumcision, but it's not, it's mutilation. It's 1,000 million billion times worse. So I started to read through, this was 9 years ago, I started to read through all the articles, watch every documentary. I basically exhausted anything that I could find on a Google search 9 years ago about female genital mutilation, FGM, and the, you know, what women went through and what people were doing to stop this problem in the world. And it scared me. It made me sad. I was crying. It was a horrible, horrible, you know, thing to go through, but I wanted to know about the distress and pain of others and what could be done and all that kind of thing. So it just ran through my mind again yesterday. And for whatever reason, I started researching again. And my biggest question yesterday was, why? why do these tribes, so okay, let me first describe what it is, because I know that some of you guys are hearing this word and some of you might not know what I'm talking about, and you should, because it's a big issue. But basically, in some parts of the world, women, as a rite of passage from being a girl to a woman, will go through a procedure called FGM, or female genital mutilation. It's actually considered something else depending on the native language. Obviously, it's not going to be something scary, but it's just a very, very normal thing that women go through in these societies, where a doctor or a grandmother in the village or another person in the family or a friend of the family will cut off part of the sex organ of a woman. So there are different types of this mutilation. Sometimes it's just the clitoris, sometimes it's like the whole, all of everything that's external. But it's a very grotesque procedure that is done, and it's very secretive. And usually the young women that this happens to don't really know about it until literally the second that it's about to happen. Then they go through this procedure, it gets cut off. They oftentimes are not given any antibiotics. After it is done, the person that's doing it will put like crushed leaves or something on the wound. They will get their legs then tied up with a rope, and they will be left in this tied up rope position for about a month while it heals. And usually they're like in a tent with other girls that this has also happened to. And it's very, very scary. Oftentimes parents will tell their children, their daughters, oh, you guys are going on vacation. And they get to this vacation and they arrive and they're brought into this tent and they just get this procedure done without them being able to fight. If you try to fight, then more women will come and hold down your arms and hands and legs. And it's just the most terrifying, scary thing that you can possibly imagine. Essentially taking away the right of women to experience pleasure during sex. And one of the reasons that they tell the women that they're going through this is because they say that it makes men want them more. If they don't do it, they're seen as being dirty. They're seen as being unclean. They're seen as being impure. They're seen as being not eligible even for marriage or not eligible for love. So the list goes on and on of all these reasons why women are supposed to go through this. And what this leads to is usually, most of the time, a lack of pleasure during sex, many complications during sex, many problems during childbirth. And you guys can look this up. It's really scary and grotesque, but some of the procedures, it ranges from just cutting off, the clitoris and nothing else. But some of the procedures actually end up basically sewing the whole area together and leaving a tiny hole. And that's it. And it's just so horrifying and scary to think about. So the physical, psychological, mental, emotional damage is intense for some of these women. I mean, for all of these women, this is like a really, really scary thing, but it's seen as being completely normal. It's seen as being a part of the taking a woman from being a girl into, or a female from being a girl into a woman. So it is a secret and cruel marriage ritual, because this is what is going to allow a female to become eligible for marriage. Okay, and circumcision in men is similar in the sense that they are removing a part of the skin that they're seen as impure, and also there's a stigma surrounding people that aren't circumcised. But obviously that doesn't keep the man from experiencing pleasure in the same way. It doesn't lead to the same complications, although it does lead to complications. And it can't really be seen as the same thing because you're not like cutting off so much and all that kind of stuff. But I don't want to get into like the argument of what is worse. I think they're both terrible. But yeah, so I was researching this. Okay, let me see if you guys have any questions or comments. I know this is like an intense subject. Okay, and I'm not going to be able to answer specific questions about this because I am not like some kind of an expert. And that's crazy that Jenna is in the chat and she's saying her students are reading about FGM right now, which is the word that I'm going to use to refer to this mutilation from here on out till the end of the video is FGM, because it just sounds a little bit more comfortable for me to say. And it's a little less graphic. But I was doing some heavy research on this, and because I had done like months of research on it before to kind of understand the politics of it all, This time I was just asking myself why, and I was really looking online to figure out why this is. And so I was starting to read interviews with people that had, people from cultures that didn't have FGM that went and spent time with cultures and women that wanted to go through this because they felt that they were allowing themselves to, what women said was like, I want to get it done because it allows me to be pure and it allows me to be accepted by the other females in my society. And if I don't get it done, I will be outcast, I will be shunned, and I won't be eligible to be married. Therefore, I won't be a valuable part of society. I won't be able to have children. I won't have a purpose in life. So it's like, it's something that feels really normal. You know what I mean? It's kind of like in our society where we're like, okay, well, back in the early 2000s, like, okay, well, if I don't shave my legs and I don't look a certain way, people aren't going to respect me as a woman. But it's more intense. It's more deeply ingrained in the culture. And there are like millions of women all over the world that do this. This is not just like one society. It's a very, very common thing. And it like goes back to ancient Egypt. Like this is something that's super, super ancient. That's more ancient. I read one article that was like, this is more ancient than some of our religions. Okay. So when I learned that this is like a more ancient practice than some of our like current religions or like historical religions, I was like, okay, well, why? Finally, I found one interview that talked about the fact that this was done for a very specific reason. In this particular culture, this culture believed that the clitoris in a woman was male and that the foreskin of a penis in a male was female. So really think about that graphically. So I didn't mean to really talk about sex so much, but the clitoris gets erect and it is an external feature. So when we think about the female is supposed to be internal, it's supposed to be passive, but the clitoris is neither of those things. Then the foreskin on a penis is female because it's, something that is encompassing, it's going around it. So this culture believes that in order for a woman to be truly woman and be ready for marriage, she needs to remove what is male from her body. And in order for a male to be truly male and ready for marriage, the male must remove what is female from his body. Does this make sense? And in this culture too, casual sex before marriage is fine. But once they're actually going to go into the contract, the Purva Phalguni of marriage, they must go through this procedure in order to make themselves pure and eligible for marriage. And when I read that, it all started to make sense. And no, I do not agree with this at all, but it all started to make sense in the fact that they actually had a specific reason, and the reasoning makes sense. And to me, they don't understand a very, very important thing. They never received like the influence of Taoism, which doesn't think of female as only female or male as only male, but the female containing one small piece of the male and the male containing one small aspect of the female as a yin and a yang. And they really didn't see that. They really didn't understand that. They're still not understanding that all female contain the male and all male contain the female. We all have an anima and an animus. And that's really important for us to truly be female. We need to contain that male aspect in us. And for someone to truly be male, the other half of the yin yang, you have to have a little bit of female in you. But because astrology is written and studied and created by man and it's historical, and because Purva Phalguni is related to the marriage ritual, we can see when we look at, I'm just going to share with you this PDF if I can. We can see that this Purva Phalguni, which is related to the marriage ritual, is cruel and violent. And it is related to the genitals. So literally on a day that is Purva Phalguni, this cruel and violent nakshatra, I was researching FGM, which completely relates to the genitals and to something cruel and violent happening. And it gave me a deeper understanding of exactly this energy, this coming together, which is supposed to create a fetus eventually. It's supposed to create something greater. And this is just one aspect of it, because I can also explain to you guys more about why Venus is cruel and how that cruelty is actually you know, something more, a little more metaphorical, more spiritual, and that violence is like a little bit more metaphorical and spiritual. If you think about Venus, Venus is a nourishing planet, and basically anything that nourishes us is dead. So every single food that we eat, every plant that we eat, every animal that we eat is death. And so death does nourish us. And marriage is going to be the death of the individuality for something greater. So there's that cruelness with it, the violence with it. If you think traditionally with marriages, like sexually, a virgin would have a hymen that would be broken during the sexual act, and birth itself is a violent thing, a painful thing. So there's many different ways we could kind of relate this to other things. But what I thought was interesting in the way that I study astrology is I'm very empirical in my approach. And so on this Purva Phalguni day, this came up for me, and it was research that was presented to me. And I just think it's fascinating to kind of see that there's this whole historical reasoning behind FGM, and also how astrology really does kind of reflect historical practices in a sense. And so that's why I also think it's important for us to do our own research and also apply astrology to nowadays, because nowadays we might not think of marriage as being cruel and violent, right? So I don't know. There's not like, I'm not trying to come up with like some, I don't really have like an end statement about this at all. I just wanted to tell you guys that without even me realizing it was a Purva Phalguni day, because yesterday I was so busy, I experienced a Purva Phalguni moment, a Purva Phalguni experience, and it helped me to kind of understand something a lot better. And also it kind of helped me to understand Purva Phalguni a lot better. So that's just a way for you guys to use astrology in a different way. And also I wanted to make this video to spread awareness of the fact that in my mind, you know, I don't think FGM is okay. I think it is totally terrible. I think any kind of cutting off of the body for non-medical reasons is horrible. And the reason why is because I think that the concept of females being totally just female and males being totally just male is totally archaic. And we still kind of see that reflected in some of our understanding of astrology as well, which is part of what I want to write about in this book that I'm trying to write, which I might never finish, but I really want to finish it so you guys can read that. And this was part of the research for that book. So I'm just kind of sharing with you interesting information and a way for you guys to kind of learn more about nakshatras in a less obvious way that is actually kind of more interesting and fun and scary sometimes too. All right, let me see what you guys have to say. Carolyn says, that's my ascendant, Purva Phalguni. All these nakshatras are violent, apparently. I should be a psycho killer according to these descriptions, or those descriptions. Yeah, I mean, it's not, it's different. It's more supposed to be a metaphor. It's more supposed to be symbolic. It's not like, it's not saying that you're violent, okay? So Jenna says it's not a Muslim practice, it's a cultural practice. Yes, it's like all over the world. And Jenna says you're doing a great job talking about it. Thank you. So yeah, there's so much to this topic because it is so worldwide. And if you guys want to know more about it, I mean, it's scary and sad to read about it, but I think that we should all open up our eyes to the terrors of the world, especially when we get to live, if you get to live a privileged life, you know, you should know what problems are happening in the world so that you can help others better and understand yourself more. And, you know, there are Americans, there are people living in the USA, for instance, I'm American, and I know that a lot of Americans are really blind to this issue, but there are a lot of people living in the US that have gone through this. And sometimes people that are from these cultures, when they live in the US, they will send their daughters on a vacation somewhere. And they pack their swimsuit, they're so excited, and they get there and they go through this procedure, and it's the worst nightmare of their entire life. So it's horrible, it's scary, it's sad. And I tried to, before I started this video today, I tried to find like an organization that you guys can donate to or any kind of outreach that you can do. But I think I couldn't find anything that was like specifically or currently active right now. So I think if you want to help or you want to do something, I think the best thing to do is to do research on this. If you are a parent or a grandmother that is like trying to encourage your daughter to go through this or wanting to secretly put your daughter through this, really rethink it, think, broaden your mind about this idea or this concept of male and female, because that's really where this is stemming from. When I read that, I felt like even if other cultures aren't really recognizing that, to me, when I read that, it felt like this is probably that first reason, this archetypical reason why this is happening. I'm not sure if that's true, but to me, it was like, that seems to make sense of why all these cultures would do this instead of like a cleanliness issue. But of course they do this now. It's like they do this because it makes the wife more passive, and it makes the wife more likely to stay within a marriage because she wouldn't have sexual desire to leave the marriage. So that's terrible and horrible. So now there are like different reasons why this happens, but yeah, it's disgusting and terrible. And I wanted to bring some awareness to it through the lens of Purva Phalguni. So if you guys have any other questions, let me know. I'll stay here for a couple more minutes. Okay. So Cindy's going to restart this and listen. And Magic Cat said that there were doctors in Michigan that were just prosecuted for this procedure. So terrible. There are doctors in the US that do this as well. So yeah, so that's all I really want to share. It's really scary and sad, but sometimes when you're looking at these nakshatras, you get to learn so much about them and like the reality, like historically, the marriage rituals were sometimes terribly violent, and still today, the marriage rituals for millions of people on this earth are violent and cruel. So, when you're studying astrology, you have to get outside of your culture a little bit. You really have to get outside of your culture so you can really know what these nakshatras are relating to, because they are worldwide. They're not just about, the simple happy life in the US with the white picket fence, okay? So that's all that I want to say. I would love to hear your guys' feedback on this video. I definitely put a disclaimer, so I didn't try to offend anyone with this video. It's just about education and awareness. And I honestly wish I could do more. And I do, if you guys know of any current like fundraiser or campaign that's going on to stop FGM, please link that below. I would love that if you did that. If you want to share anything about this below, or any insights you have, or anything you know about Purva Phalguni Nakshatra that's maybe not so scary, I'd love to see that below as well. So that's all I have to share today. Give this video a thumbs up if you're watching, and subscribe to my channel if you're interested in all these different topics I'm bringing up, or if you just like to watch. And I will see you guys in my next video. Have a wonderful day. And this day will be a lot less scary than yesterday. You guys will make it through. I'll see you guys later. Bye.